When you fill out your ACON questionnaire every year, the very first question is, was our organisation mentioned in the news in a negative light regarding LGBTIQ issues? And if you say yes, you can lose up to 25 points.
So if there is a news item, for example, the Cass Review, and it's critical of transgender ideology, the ABC can lose points for that?
It's possible, yes.
Right. And Justice Andrew Strum's verdict against the gender transitioning of a boy and his damning of Michelle Telfer, the ABC could lose points for that.
They could, yeah.
Which explains why they didn't cover it.
It is feared that the Prime Minister has drowned.
No, don't panic. The Prime Minister hasn't drowned, he's perfectly fine. Well, hello to you, wherever you're listening from. My name is Phil Dye, and this is Filtered Episode 16, which is part 2 of the episode series called Fixing the News. Now, in part 1 of Fixing the News, I interviewed Julie Sago about the state of the news media in Australia generally. And in that episode, the media didn't shine out to be bastions of truth. In this episode, I'll be interviewing Kit Kowalski about her experiences, and we're really focusing on the ABC, and in particular, the ABC's relationship with the Aids Council of New South Wales, or ACON. Why is this important? Because most Australians rely on the ABC for unbiased news not influenced by external groups. As the ABC is a taxpayer-funded media, in other words, all the workers in Australia help pay for it, we expect it to be totally unbiased, totally uninfluenced by outside organisations. I'm passionate about this because I'm a past lecturer in media and communication at the University of Technology, Sydney. I've written for most Australian newspapers and even written for the ABC. I contacted the chairman of the ABC, Kim Williams, about this and had correspondence back and forth, and I'll be talking about that later on in the episode towards the end. But just to give you an idea where the ABC stands on issues that are important to the Aids Council of New South Wales, or ACON, issues like biological men playing in women's sports, or child gender transitioning, which is contentious to say the least. I'm going to play you the audio from a shortened version of a video that was released by the ABC. It was called Sapphire, and it targets 8 to 12-year-old children.
People think that I'm not really a girl, but I am a girl. I'm 10. When I was younger, I just didn't feel right and everything felt wrong. I knew that I wanted to be a girl and I was a girl, but I didn't really know what to say or how to say it, or if it was true. I remember this day, I was playing with my big sister. We were playing a game and something felt wrong, and I just said to her, I'm a girl and that's who I am. It made me feel kind of nervous that people wouldn't accept me for who I was because they've always known me as a boy. I'll be on puberty blockers soon, and that's just going to be pausing really my body from growing into what I don't want it to be. I am who I want to be. I can do what I want to do. If someone's trying to say, no, you can't, I'm not related to that person. I'm not they're not me. They don't know how I feel and who I want to be.
So this 10-year-old boy who wants to change to a girl, but he states he doesn't know whether it's true or not, and will go on puberty blockers and hormones and make changes to his body that will last forever. This is not like taking antibiotics for an infection. this has lasting effects on his body. He mentions he thinks there might be something wrong when he was a child. I think what's wrong is that he has parents who haven't done their research into all of this and are simply going along with what certain groups are espousing. Perhaps he's got parents who can't use the no word, and parents who don't understand that a 10-year-old cannot make decisions about the rest of their lives. We don't let them buy alcohol, we don't let them gamble, we don't send them off to war, and we don't let them drive. But we're going to let them make a decision about the rest of their lives. Absolutely criminal. So the ABC made this video a couple of years ago, and it's very much in line with what ACON preaches. And as I said, ACON stands for the Aids Council of New South Wales. Now they do work Australia-wide. They're responsible for the Everyone with a Cervix campaign, which omitted the word women when talking about cervical cancer. And they did some very good work back in the 80s when AIDS was a real crisis. But they have changed. In the last 10 years, most of their focus has been on the TQA plus parts of the Rainbow Alliance. With this focus, they're supporting child gender transitioning, kids being put on hormones and puberty blockers, biological men playing in women's sports. They support children being told at school that they can be born in the wrong body and that they can change their sex, which of course they can't because there's only two sexes, male and female, and it's impossible to change. There's also the erosion of women's spaces, biological men using women's bathrooms and change rooms, and the entire issue of forced pronoun use at work and at school. And on top of that, ACON has relationships with pharmaceutical companies who manufacture puberty blockers and hormones for those thinking that they can change sex, which would make any sane Australian ask, why does the ABC have an alliance with this group? And how can the ABC serve two masters? The master of objective journalism, free from outside influence from groups, and ACON, the master of transgender ideology. And before we get to the interview with Kit uses an acronym, the AWEI, and so you know what it means. It is the Australian Workplace Equality Index, which is an ACON initiative where companies, businesses can join it for a fee and get points for everything that they do, say, or teach that is consistent with ACON ideology. They can run workshops, they can start pride groups, or they can even publish articles which are positive towards a transgender lifestyle. Now, Kit Kowalski is the founder of ACON Exposed, a website which tells all about ACON. Also the host of Welcome to the Dollhouse, an international podcast. And if anyone has looked into the ACON ABC relationship, it's Kit. Welcome, Kit.
Thank you so much, Phil, for having me here.
Kit, can you just start off by telling us why the ABC has this relationship with ACON, the Aids Council of New South Wales?
So since about 2010, ACON has had a little business unit that has operated inside it called Pride in Diversity. Back in the 2010s, the workplace was actually quite different to how it is today. So the stated mission of Pride in Diversity really related to ACON's core mission of dealing with the AIDS crisis. And the logic kind of goes that, if you feel comfortable to be yourself, to talk about, yourself and your life, then you're also going to feel comfortable to talk about your health and to seek assistance with your health, right? So it's a little bit removed, I think, from actually the nuts and bolts of the AIDS crisis, but it's still kind of in the sphere, building community, building pride, and making it okay for people to be gay and bisexual at work.
And what does Pride in Diversity actually do?
Their sort of flagship thing that they do is every year companies can submit something called the Australian Workplace Equality Index. And it's a really long survey. There's about 40 questions. And the template, the document template alone is about 40 pages. And then they submit all this evidence, and then ACON gives them a score of how inclusive they are for LGBTIQ plus people in the workplace.
But is it only based on employment and the people, or are there other things involved with this?
It's very holistic, actually. So it isn't just about, hiring and firing and leave policies. It's very extensive, and it covers the entire workplace culture. So we're talking things like, having special family leave policies. So, if you're a lesbian and your wife is having a baby, then allowing that lesbian woman to take the equivalent of a paternal leave, right, to support her wife while she has a baby, which is, quite fair enough. It's sort of providing that same level of accommodation to people who are in a gay relationship versus a straight relationship. But then on the other hand, there's things like they get points for getting their CEO to go out to an external venue and give a talk about LGBTIQ issues, or to have their workplace engage in funding and pro bono work that benefits the LGBTIQ community.
Which is why Jeremy Fernandez hosts their special events and gala dinners, I guess. He does it for nothing. How many Australian charities and non-for-profits would love that to happen?
So one of the ways that ACON actually benefits from this arrangement, and it's amazing for them having the ABC and SBS and Channel 10 all signed up, because those organisations, they get points for pro bono work, and they happen to be the cream of the media crop in Australia. And so you can lend out Jeremy Fernandez for a couple of days and you can get your 2 points for that. And that goes towards your tally of up to 200 points. Now, I don't know how much would it cost to hire Jeremy Fernandez for a couple of days, but I'm imagining it's not free.
No, anyone else would be paying about $20,000, I imagine.
It's kind of like doing charity work, but this is a commercial enterprise. People pay money to go to these events and to be hosted by Jeremy Fernandez or Mon Shafter, etc.
And Mon Shafter is the one who added the entire web division of ABC Queer. And if you add the film First Day and even that Sapphire animated film that we heard a little bit earlier, they'll win an entire division. They may actually be champions of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a little bit of to and fro with some of these things. You don't quite know which is the tail and which is the dog. So when it comes to First Day, that was a production that the ABC picked up and promoted, and then they also put that down to get points from ACON for doing that. And so it's not something ACON asked them to do. There's a section in the end of the AWEI where you can do other things. Then you can just list all of the stuff you've done and try to pick up some extra points. And so ABC did list First Day as something they wanted to get extra points for. But when it comes to ABC Queer and to Monique Shafter's podcast, Innies and Outies, both of those were done for the purpose of getting an award from ACON, and they both picked up a New Media Award from the ACON Pride and Diversity Awards.
Now, I've never spoken to Mon Shafter, but I am supposing she was employed specifically to do this, was she?
Mon Shafter heads up a little department inside ABC called the Queer Content Department. So she's got herself, her salary, and the people who work under her and the people who are working for her to develop content, professional journalism, professional reporting, professional video, professional graphic design. And it's all put out on Instagram, and They have an email newsletter, and then sometimes the stories also go onto the big ABC site as well.
Yes, I saw Monshafter's last piece. I think it was called A Conversion Therapy Survivor. It was just a puff piece espousing the benefits of transgender ideology. There was no objective journalism at all.
A lot of the content on ABC Queer, it is just puffery. I mean, ABC content on Instagram, it is very shortened, it's very clipped. It's just the bare essentials of the news. But the stuff on ABC Queer, it's a whole other level. It only ever considers one perspective.
ABC pays ACON, do they?
They do. It's only about the $6,000 a year that they pay, which is the membership fee to be in Pride and Diversity.
But I guess they would pay extra as well for every workshop that ACON runs for them, diversity workshop, inclusion workshop. So they would be paying a lot, I would imagine, for that extra stuff. ACON has also given them advice as the best way of phrasing the new definition of families. I don't know whether they paid money for that. But I suppose as far as building content, there's a lot of staff hours involved.
The real cost is in terms of the time and effort and talent that they spend delivering content for ACON.
Just to give a bit more detail about what I mentioned earlier, another platinum member of ACON is AbbVie, and AbbVie are the biggest producers of puberty blockers and hormones in the world for people who are transgendering. AbbVie, as a platinum member, they get lots of awards from ACON, and ACON promotes transgenderism so that those individuals will have to take the puberty blockers and hormones that AbbVie makes. It's a nice marketing cycle, isn't it?
Sick of transgender nonsense but afraid to say anything? Worried about losing your job or maybe even your friends? You can sign the Declaration of Biological Truth privately, where your name will never, ever be public. It's 100% secure. This is important for teachers, nurses or childcare workers who know that gender ideology is harming children, but may lose their job if they speak out. It's a record of how you really think. It's quick and easy. Just search for Declaration of Biological Truth Australia and follow the links.
So, Kit, this ACON Pride and Diversity thing, it's a bit like a social club where you get points for what you do and that increases your social validity. Would that be the best way of describing it?
So it's creating a community of people who all have that same interest, and it's rewarding people who act in that interest. So, you know, like there's definitely like a corruption of some of our government agencies and services, like Defence, like the ATO, Services Australia, ABC, SBS. But it's not like ACON comes in and they say, right, you're all going to promote transgenderism now. They say, well, if you want to be inclusive of people who are different, and, you know, who doesn't want to have diversity and be inclusive and be nice to people and have harmony, then they say, okay, well, you need to promote all of these things. And then it's this really powerful social driver that anytime you're making a decision about like what content you put out on the airwaves, in the back of their minds, they're thinking, well, is this going to get me an ACON point? Or is this going to detract from our ACON score?
And in a news item, say a news item covering the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne's gender service, in order to get some ACON points, they'll interview Michelle Telfer perhaps, or someone who is in praise of the gender service, but they'll omit to interview anyone who's critical of that to avoid losing points.
Exactly. And actually, when you fill out your ACON questionnaire every year, the very first question is, was our organisation mentioned in the news in a negative light regarding LGBTIQ issues? And if you say yes, you can lose up to 25 points.
Now, hold on, Kit. Can you just go through that again? What is the question?
If you have negative press surrounding LGBTIQ issues for the organisation, you can lose 25 AWEI points.
So if there is a news item, for example, the Cass review from last year comes out and it's critical of transgender ideology, the ABC can lose points for that.
It's possible, yes.
Right. And Justice Andrew Strum's verdict against the gender transitioning of a boy and his damning of Michelle Telfer, they could lose points for that.
They could, yeah.
Which explains why they didn't cover it.
So this is the thing, right? It's all about reputation, and where it really crosses a line for our national broadcaster and our national special broadcasting service to be a part of this scheme is that they decide what gets shown in the media and what doesn't. And every day they're deciding whether positive press or negative press is actually broadcast. And so it's in their interest to not broadcast any negative opinions about things that ACON holds dear, like puberty blockers, like Michelle Telfer, like men and women's sports, etc.
Now, the ABC have a charter on how they should be doing things. And the ABC charter, I think it's Section 8, Appendix 8, Sections B and D, talk about objective journalism and journalism free, independent and free from influence. Here are the exact words.
In Appendix 1, Sections 8C and 8D of the ABC Charter, it states,
"It is the duty of the Board to maintain the independence and integrity of the corporation,
and
to ensure that the gathering and presentation by the corporation of news and information is accurate and impartial, according to the recognized standards of objective journalism."
These recognized standards of objective journalism include presenting news without bias and publishing news without influence from outside groups.
Now, that is impossible when you have organisations like ACON being allied with them.
Well, I think David Anderson, the CEO of ABC, did actually answer this in Senate estimates a couple of years ago. And the line is, this isn't an editorial policy, is about human resources, and it's about making sure that people in the LGBTQ feel comfortable at work. However, what they actually are doing is creating this community around maximising their point score. And because they're a news agency, every decision they make in terms of publishing the news goes towards that score.
And Australian taxpayers contribute to that.
Absolutely. So we pay for the ABC. You know, we pay everyone's salary who works at the ABC. We even pay that $6,000 a year fee for them to be part of this scheme. Plus, if you're in New South Wales, you pay for ACON as well. Between New South Wales government and the federal government, we fund ACON to the tune of over $20 million a year.
Do you think most Australians even know about this relationship?
I think very few Australians know about the relationship. And I think if they did, they might not understand the significance and the impact of it. They might just think, oh, well, it's about live and let live. You know, oh, it's just about gay rights. It's okay to be gay in the workplace, that kind of thing. Whereas it is actually shaping what we see in our news and on our TVs.
Most certainly. It's not much about news and information. It's about social change. And in my next episode, I'm interviewing someone from LGB Australia. And the lesbian, gay and bi population have now divorced themselves from ACON.
Yeah, very much so. I think there's a growing trend in the LGB to just wake up and say, well, we actually have our rights now. People who are lesbian, gay and bisexual, they can marry. And that was really like one of the final frontiers. They can marry, they can, have children, they can adopt, they can do what everybody else can do. And I won't say that, there's no more homophobia in Australia, because I'm not in a position to make that statement. But certainly if you live in one of the capital cities, you can live a very normal life.
Yes. Yeah, it's not really an issue for most people nowadays.
I don't think it is. And one of the really strange things that I have noticed about the ABC is that they're really desperate to get someone in the AFL to come out as being gay. And I find that this is a really strange obsession that they have with, people's private lives, essentially.
Well, if they can get a player to come out as gay, it adds legitimacy to the whole LGBTQA acronym, doesn't it? Well, really, the LGB is completely different to the rest of the group, the TQA mob. I think the AFL are a member of ACON's Australian Workplace Equality Index, aren't they?
Yes. So the Australian Workplace Equality Index, they actually have a couple of different versions. So they have one for workplaces, they have one for sport, and they have one for medical and health-focused workplaces. So the influence is growing daily, like the number of organisations across the government and across our sporting codes who are signed up to this, it's really alarming.
It is alarming, and it's like a lot of these sporting organisations are just using ACON as a bit of a plug-in. This covers their diversity responsibilities. I think many of them don't understand the detail of what's going on, and they don't understand ACON's level of influence. The same as the average Australian doesn't understand it. They're too busy paying their mortgage.
Exactly, right? Like most of us don't care what someone does in the bedroom or whether they bring Jane or Steve to the work barbecue. Like for most of us, it's just live and let live. But, this program, it's really put like sexuality into the workplace in a way that, I know I find pretty uncomfortable. It's got this unrelenting influence on workplace culture.
And via the ABC, what we hear on the news. And it's a forced culture, isn't it? It's forced on us.
It is, because it comes down through the executive and through the HR departments, and they even have special training for the HR teams where they give them special levels of knowledge about things like intersectionality. And you'll find that, say, intersectionality has bled into government policies. So in New South Wales, we have the LGBTIQ health strategy, and it is full of references to intersectionality. And that's a term that they don't define in the strategy.
Oh, it's a bit like the term woman.
Right? Exactly. Except woman has a meaning. Intersectionality, it can sort of mean whatever you want it to mean.
Yes, it's a bit like Dancing with Smoke. It involves an entire different episode to cover that little issue.
Yeah.
But my direct correspondence with ABC Chairman Kim Williams, and I did get direct correspondence from him, was that a common landing may prove to be elusive in this territory.
Oh, that's an interesting phrase.
Yes, I'm going to be talking about it at the end of this episode, actually, in the communication I had directly from Kim Williams. But do you think there is any one silver bullet that will change the mind of Kim Williams and the ABC board?
Oh, I was really hopeful when Kim Williams came on board because, straight away he made some reforms in terms of the amount of hard news that the ABC was covering. So he made some pithy observations that ABC was just basically producing a lot of puff instead of producing actual news. But then I heard he made some sort of disparaging comments about Joe Rogan, and it just made me think, I think Kim Williams is quite out of touch with the world of media and journalism as it is at the moment. I don't think he understands how media and how influence works today. In terms of silver bullets, no, I don't think there is a silver bullet, unfortunately. I think that what we have to do is to lobby politicians to defund ACON.
So you think it's defunding ACON, not getting the ABC to leave or divorce themselves from ACON?
I think even if we get the ABC to divorce themselves from ACON, we still have tens of government departments who are also signed up. We actually don't know the real number, but it's more than 40. I think that really it has to be at the source, that there is a lot of excellent work being done, I mean, by yourself included, to highlight just how biased the ABC is. It's a little bit unfortunate that it tends to come down to a left versus right, because ABC has been a left-biased media outlet since before I was born. I don't know if it is possible to get them to leave ACON, but it would be amazing if they did.
Indeed it would, Kit. And it's not just for the sake of objective journalism and integrity in reporting, but it's a case of the optics that they must be seen to be without influence. They must be seen to be unbiased, and at the moment they're not.
100%. And that's the thing, is even if there's any doubt at all, that creeps in that, oh, did you include every single source? Did you ask every single question? Are they actually providing us unbiased news that is high quality, that is, has editorial integrity? Or is there a lobby group somewhere in the background, and maybe they lost a source's phone number, or maybe they just didn't get around to following it up? It undermines our confidence in the ABC as a national institution.
And indeed, it does undermine our trust in our national broadcaster in Australia. That was Kit Kowalski. Kit is the founder of ACON Exposed and the host of Welcome to the Dollhouse podcast. And links to both of those will be in the episode notes. Now, I said I would fill you in more on my communication with the chairman of the ABC, Kim Williams. But before I do, I want to share with you some of the history that Kim Williams and I share. We went to the same high school, Marsden High School at Ermington. Kim was about 2 years ahead of me, but we shared the same teachers. One of them was the late, great music teacher, Richard Gill. We shared probably quite a similar background experience. Our education was all about learning facts and the truth, history. It wasn't an indoctrination like the kids at school get these days. It was based on fact and preparing us for the workplace and for life. In those days, the ABC's news broadcasts followed the rules of objective journalism. There, of course, was no online news. It was all radio and TV. And, of course, in those days, there was no LGBTQA+ initialism. The Rainbow Alliance certainly did not exist. Although, most certainly, gay people did, and lesbian and bi individuals did, and even transgender individuals did, but they didn't push their belief and their ideology onto others. It was a very different time. Now, in my communication with Kim Williams and the ABC, I requested 3 things. The first thing was that articles that failed the bias test, and this is articles mentioning gender diversity, transgenderism, if they failed the bias test, they were to be moved to an opinion section of the online news site. Now, they didn't do that, but certain articles have been tagged with opinion or perspective. So, yes, it is a slight change. The second thing was that the ABC completely divorced themselves from ACON to ensure that news covers the standards of objective journalism and there is complete integrity with the ABC with no outside influence in news reporting. The third thing was that their news staff all undergo anti-bias training. Now, really, the first thing, yes, there's been some token movement. The last thing, well, if they don't do the anti-bias training, I suppose it's not going to make that much difference because ACON will probably be delivering the training. But the second thing, of course, was the biggie, the divorce from ACON. Now, Kim's communication with me was very cordial and in good faith, I believe. And I do realise that any chairman of the ABC is on a hiding to nothing. Certainly Ida Buttrose was, and many before her. And on reading between the lines with Kim Williams' communication, I sense that with a staff that is so indoctrinated through inclusion, diversity and equity via workshops usually delivered by ACON, he's really going to struggle in any move to divorce the ABC from the ACON grasp. If even 20% of his staff went on strike over this very specific issue, it would be disastrous for the ABC. In Kim's exact words, he said, "The issues are, as I'm sure we both acknowledge, unusually complex and resistant to simple summary. I sense a common landing may prove to be elusive in this territory." So what's to be done about all this? Well, I've started a petition to get the ABC out of ACON. It's not about ACON, as I said earlier. ACON was set up to make awareness about AIDS in the 80s, and they did a good job of that. Things have changed, though, in the last 10 years. This is about the ABC's relationship with ACON. Now, I'm not a great fan of petitions. I don't have a great deal of faith in them, but I thought if 300 or 400 people can learn something about this situation by reading the petition, it's well worth it. If the petition happened to get 2,000 or 3,000 signatures, well, all the better. The link to the petition is in the episode notes. Just click on that and you'll go through to the My Cause page for the petition. Another possibility, and this is a bit left field, is to let the employers who subscribe to ACON's Australian Workplace Equality Index know that you're not happy as far as the transgenderism work that ACON is involved with, particularly to mention the gender transitioning of children through school education, the administration of puberty blockers and hormones, and participation of biological men in women's sports. It's then up to those employers to let ACON know that some of their customers aren't happy with everything that ACON is doing. Now, who are these employers? Well, there's household names like AGL, like Amazon, like Australia Post, like Woolworths, like Bendigo Bank. There's so many of them, I can't name them all, but there is a full list available in the episode notes of all the employers that are affiliated with ACON's Australian Workplace Equality Index. What you could also do is look at that list and decide, I'm not going to go with any of them. I'm going to go with someone else. I'm moving house soon and Energy Australia is my supplier. I may well go to perhaps Red Energy, who isn't on the ACON AWEI list. And before someone accuses me of doxing these employers, I can tell you that the information is freely available on the ACON website. Well, that concludes the two-part series on fixing the news. Feel free to send me an email, phil@filtered.com.au, and please share the podcast link. Please put a thumbs up or comment because that'll help the algorithm do its work. The next episode, I'll be interviewing Nicole Phillips from the LGB Alliance Australia about the end of the rainbow. My name's Phil Dye. You've been listening to Filtered. I'm going to leave you with the words from Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. See you later.
No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other.